The Trump administration has been all in on the push for schools to reopen this fall, despite concerns over the surging number of new coronavirus cases nationwide.
It's time to be open. It's time to stay open, and we will put out the fires as they come up, but we have to open our schools. It's so important to open our schools. We're safely reopening our country, and very importantly, we're safely reopening our schools. We want the schools to be open. We have to open our schools. Open our schools. Stop this nonsense. We open our schools. We have to get our schools open and stop this political nonsense. And it's only political nonsense. It's politics.
Joining me now is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. Her organization has endorsed Joe Biden, and she is on the task force helping the presumptive Democratic nominee craft his education policy. Hi, Randi. Welcome. Great to have you with us. So, the Trump administration... We're so glad to have you. The Trump administration is full speed ahead to get schools reopened. But given the pandemic, is it safe for students, teachers, and administrators? Because, we've been talking a lot about students. We've been talking a lot about parents. But we haven't been talking so much about the teachers and the administrators, which is clearly, why you're here to offer that perspective. But right. Is it safe for all of them to go back to school? And if so, how do you plan to keep them safe?
So, number one, I don't know what the heck the president is talking about. They haven't talked about schools at all for years, other than trying to cut their budgets and arming teachers. And we've been trying to reopen schools safely since April. We put the first report out to say it's not about whether you reopen schools, it's about how we do it, because we know how much our kids have lost during this period of time. But we are still in the midst of three crises. The pandemic is soaring. And so we need to follow the science, and we need to make sure that things are safe. So number one, teachers and administrators want to be with our kids. We need to make it safe. And that means having things like physical distancing, masks, ventilation and cleaning. And if people are in high risk, they shouldn't be in school. They should be doing things remotely. That also means you need the resources to do it. So why is Trump not offering us resources? And why did McConnell go on vacation instead of passing the bill that the House did on resources a month ago, the HEROES bill? So this nonsense this week of politicizing schools and politicizing healthcare and the well-being of kids was destructive and reckless. He may want to be reckless with bars, and he may want to be reckless with beaches, and he may want to be reckless with his own gatherings. But don't be reckless with our kids and our teachers. They want to teach the resources and the safety protocols.
So, Randi, the picture that you're painting of school in the fall is a lot more gray than what the president would like to see. So you're saying what you're anticipating will happen are various scenarios, some in-person schooling going on, some online schooling going on for those who are at high risk. It sounds a lot more complicated. Are the plans already in place for all of this?
So it is a lot more complicated, and I'm sorry if I sound so angry, but our first press conference on coronavirus was on February 2nd. We knew something was going on. We're not stupid. We knew that something was going on with this virus. And we said to ourselves, let's try to plan reopening better than closing when. So yes, there's 50 states that are planning. Should there be more guidance, direction from the federal government? Of course there should be. Should Betsy DeVos have done more things? Of course she should have. But, they haven't, and we have to try and figure out how to get the resources and that planning.
So it sounds like you have
Florida, they're not.
So it sounds like you have a lot of work cut out for you and everyone trying to reopen schools in a month, essentially. Are you sort of taking it day by day still? Because I know there's still a lot of unknowns, how many cases will continue to surge, which states will get it under control. Or at this point, are you just forced into crafting a plan?
Well, in some places, look, this is kids' lives and this is teachers' lives and this is our future. And, all of the hopes and aspirations in some ways lay on all of our shoulders. So there are 50 states that are planning. Some are denying the virus, like Florida. Some are actually really planning, like New York. But they need the resources from the federal government because their budgets have been cut. So let me even talk about it this way. I think we are seeing that in states that have tackled the virus, you're going to have hybrid reopenings, meaning because with the 6 feet physical distancing, you basically have half capacity. So you're going to have some kids in school at one point and other kids not. Some states are doing, or districts are doing, like an A session in the morning, a B session in the afternoon. Some are staggering like Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then special needs kids on or reinforcement on Friday. But you're going to start seeing those plans emerge because there's a recognition that the 6 feet of physical distancing, masks, cleaning, and ventilation are part of the package of how you stop a virus spread in a school. But then there's a real difference between a New York and, say, a West Virginia and a Florida. West Virginia and Florida both have Republican governors. The West Virginia governor said, we're seeing a spike in our state. We need to be slow. We're going to postpone the opening of school for a month. Florida is completely denying that there's a surge. Every country that has done this well has actually done a pause on schooling when you see a surge. We need to actually keep community spread really low, have a testing infrastructure in place so that an outbreak doesn't become a surge like what has happened in Florida, ensure that we have the safety protocols so there's not a spread of the virus in school, and then have the instructional and the well-being strategies we need. We got to get parents and teachers involved in this discussion, and you need the money. It's unprecedented. It's going to be, it's hard to teach kids anyway. This is the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives, but we got to do it together. And what the president did was just reckless and frankly destructive.
And I know teachers are at home thinking, if I'm going back to school, is the school going to provide me with PPE? What's the answer to that? Is that going to be an out-of-pocket expense for teachers? Will it be provided for them? Will they be reimbursed for the protective wear?
Well, look, teachers right now take out $500 to $1,000 a year out of their own pocket to pay for supplies for kids. It's one of the only professions where we actually subsidize what work is supposed to do for us. Having said that, we have said that the PPE, whether it be masks or face shields, or frankly, when you're dealing with special needs kids and you have to be much closer than 6 feet, there's going to have to be more protective gear like you see in hospitals. And that has to be a part and parcel of work. So the school systems are going to have to provide those masks and those, to the kids and to the teachers. That's why we're saying it's going to cost 20% more, not 20% less, to do this work in school. And frankly, when you see the military, people say, of course we have to provide the appropriate equipment. When you see what we just did in terms of, the rocket ships launching in Florida, of course we have to provide the appropriate protective equipment. That's the same is true in terms of education. It has to be a priority. And frankly, I don't begrudge the cruise ship industry. I think the PPP program was really important. But our kids have to be important, and they can't be a political pawn, and this has to be paid for. That's why we don't understand why Mitch McConnell went on vacation instead of doing another stimulus bill. It should have been done in May and June. If schools are starting in 2 weeks from now, why do you wait to the end of July to even start talking about a stimulus? It's this disrespect. And let me just say one more thing, which is what I'm fearful of this week, which I was not fearful of last week. We have a recent poll of our members that say 76% of them want to or are comfortable going back into school with the safety protocols. They know that kids have lost out, and they know that schooling is about well-being and about, pushing back on social isolation. But with what the president did this week, what's going to happen? We're going to have a brain drain. People are going to say, I can't go back and I don't trust anything. And we're going to have too many retirements now, or too many teachers opting out because they don't trust that government is going to actually, safeguard their basic health and well-being.
And not a good time to be losing teachers. We definitely don't want that to happen. Well, Randi Weingarten, thank you so much for joining us and bringing the perspective of the teachers to the table on this discussion over reopening schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much.